Little Red Riding Hood and the Two Mormons. A Gonzo fairy tale, full madness. The sun hung low, bloated, and angry in the sweltering sky, casting a sickly orange haze over the woods, like the aftermath of some cosmic apocalypse. Little Red Riding Hood, the forest's outlaw on two wheels, flew down the dirt path on her bike, not giving a damn about the twigs snapping under her tires or the sweat dripping off her brow. She was wired, the sort of focus only the open road could bring, adrenaline pumping as if there were neon lights flashing in the trees, like a nightclub caught in an endless loop of bad acid trips. Her red helmet gleamed, reflecting her chaotic path through the woods. Her eyes narrowed against the wind, her thoughts a blur of heat, rebellion, and the vague sense that today was going to be off. She wasn't some doe-eyed kid with a basket of baked goods. Red was on a mission, barreling toward Granny's place like a red-hot missile with no brakes. But even she wasn't ready for the scene she was about to walk into. Back at Granny's hut, the situation had long since slipped the leash of normality. Granny had given up knitting and bingo years ago, swapping them for late-night LSD benders and enough substances to make Hunter S. Thompson raise an eyebrow. The inside of her house was pure gonzo chaos. It looked like a bomb had gone off. But it wasn't just any bomb. This was an explosion of shattered reality, where everything had deep, hidden meaning, man. Stacks of vinyl records sat like altars to forgotten gods, surrounded by half-melted candles, plastic flamingos dressed like Buddhist monks, and neon posters from the 70s preaching peace and love, but slashed with angry claw marks like Granny had a disagreement with the universe itself. Strings of Christmas lights blinked erratically over windows boarded up with newspaper clippings about UFO sightings and Bigfoot conspiracy theories. In the center of this disaster, Granny lay sprawled on the floor, her pupils so dilated she looked like a goddamn owl, babbling nonsense to a half-empty bottle of cough syrup. "The walls, man! They're alive! They're breathing!" Her voice ricocheted off the walls, each word drenched in the aftermath of whatever cocktail she'd whipped up from the stash hidden in her kitchen pantry. The big bad wolf, the slimy bastard he was, had thought he could take advantage of this chaos. He'd shown up, thinking he could pull some classic switcheroo and snack on Little Red. But instead of the cunning, elderly woman he expected, he found Granny in full freak-out mode, completely detached from reality, swatting at invisible bats and ranting about cosmic crocodiles. Granny's paranoia had worked in her favor. The wolf, now trussed up and gagged in the corner with a rainbow scarf tied around his snout, had lost all hope. He'd been hit in the face with a frying pan, a ceramic garden gnome, and a backhand slap that somehow broke the laws of physics. He was now rethinking his life choices. "I didn't survive the 69 Woodstock slime monsters just to be eaten by a wolf," Granny had screamed in his face. That was around the time two guys showed up. Door knockers, missionaries from the local church, or maybe aliens sent from a higher dimension. Who the hell knew? They were wearing white shirts, black ties, and that damn polished look like they'd stepped out of a J.C. Penney catalog. Mormons. They'd wandered into this freak show without a clue. "Hello, ma'am. We're from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we'd love to share a message." Granny didn't even let them finish before she charged at them with a fly swatter, screeching like a banshee in the grip of a bad trip. "No soul-sucking here!" she screamed, smacking one of the Mormons on the head. "This is sacred ground! I won't let you turn my chakras inside out!" The two Mormons, having never dealt with an LSD-fueled maniac, stumbled backward, tripping over a stack of VHS tapes marked Evidence with scrawled Sharpie. They landed in a pile of vintage Playboys and a glowing lava lamp that looked like it contained the essence of the universe. While Granny ranted about lizard people infiltrating the post office, the big bad wolf, fed up with this circus, had managed to free himself from his psychedelic prison. Granny had been too distracted swatting at her imaginary bats to notice. The wolf, desperate and starving, made a last-ditch effort to escape and devour anything in sight. But before he could pounce, knock knock. That wasn't the Mormons again. No, this time it was Little Red, standing at the door with her bike helmet cocked sideways and her knuckles white from gripping the handlebars. She pushed her way inside without a word, taking in the carnage. Granny screeching about reptilians, the wolf convulsing in the corner, and the two Mormons covered in junk, their faith thoroughly tested. "What in the hell is going on in here?" Red muttered, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. Granny spun around, eyes blazing. Red, it's the bats, man. They're everywhere. Bats and crocodiles. The universe is out of whack. Red shook her head, unimpressed. Granny, how much acid have you had this week? Granny grinned a toothy grin, holding up a hand with 2 fingers. Just a little, kid, just enough to keep the demons away. Red looked at the wolf, who now looked more like a coked-out lounge singer than a predatory creature. And what the hell happened to him? He ate the Mormons! Granny screamed, though it was obvious the missionaries were very much alive. The wolf, now trapped in a whirlwind of cosmic regret, tried to speak, but his swollen gut and a bad trip courtesy of Granny's spiked tea had done him in. His belly gave a sickening gurgle, and before anyone knew what was happening, pop, out tumbled the 2 Mormons, covered in saliva but miraculously unharmed. Their pamphlets, crumpled and wet, flopped onto the floor like dead fish. One Mormon, trembling, muttered, "I think we need to pray." The other, wide-eyed and wild, gasped, "A miracle! We've been delivered!" Red snorted. "You boys should have known better than to wander into this mess. Get your bikes and go peddle your sermons somewhere else." The 2 Mormons staggered to their feet, grabbing their backpacks and stumbling out the door, tripping over empty liquor bottles and crushed vinyl records. As they fled, Granny cackled maniacally, waving her fly swatter in triumph. "Get out of here, you holy rollers! This place is for the lost souls!" she yelled after them, her voice rising over the sound of a wind chime, made entirely of rusted spoons and old cigarette lighters clanging against the window. Red rubbed her temples, watching Granny get worked up into a frenzy again. "Granny, you gotta stop with this shit. You're gonna fry your brain." But Granny wasn't listening. She was already deep into another tirade about the crocodiles from Neptune, and how the postman was probably working for the Illuminati. "They're coming, Red! We need to arm the house! Bring me the aluminum foil! We'll build a fortress of truth!" Red sighed, already tired of the madness, but there was a wolf to deal with first. She walked over to him, poking his bloated gut with her boot. "You still hungry?" The wolf groaned, his eyes rolling back in his head. "No more! No more! Please!" Red smirked, pulling her helmet off and tossing it onto the couch. "Good! Now sit there and think about your life choices." Granny was now busy dragging furniture to the windows, preparing for some imaginary invasion. "We'll barricade ourselves in here, Red. No one gets in or out. Only the pure of heart will survive." Red grabbed the nearest chair and flopped down, ignoring the piles of junk and strange contraptions scattered across the room. "Granny, you've lost it, but whatever. Let's make some tea and wait for the next disaster." And so, as the sun dipped low and the woods buzzed with the sounds of creatures unseen, Little Red Riding Hood, Granny, and a very nauseous wolf settled into the swirling madness of an acid-soaked evening, where nothing made sense, and yet everything felt oddly in its right place.